Presentation by South San Francisco Scavenger. So hold on while we go through our normal stuff. I'd like to call the meeting to order and roll call, please.
Barbara Ebel.
Anthony Walker.
Michelle Salmon. Note for the record that Jason Noonan and Mary Rogers are absent. And I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our newest member of the Open Space and Ecology Committee, Anthony Walker. This will be his first meeting, and we are really grateful to have him on the committee. He brings a lot to the table, especially with his experience with electrification and lots of other stuff. Anthony, do you want to say just a few words? I'm sorry to catch you off guard, but why not?
Oh, no, just thank you very much for, welcoming me to the committee, and I look forward to doing great work with all of you.
Good, excellent. Okay, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay, the agenda is adopted. Do I need to read any of the?
I think
You do not need to read the preamble, and you don't need to do a roll call vote, but you should actually have a vote after the first and second.
Oh.
All in favor?
All in favor.
Aye.
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 Aye. It's been a while since I sat in the hot seat. It's several years, actually. Oh, sorry, the middle seat. Okay, do we have any announcements?
We do.
Hello, committee members. My name is Ingrid Padilla, your city clerk. I have two announcements for the committee. One is that if you ever need to reach me, the city clerk's office actually moved. We moved across the street, 25 Park Place, AKA the Annex. I'm joined there with my colleagues from the city manager's office and the human resources department. So we are officially moved in. Please come and, visit us. We're lonely over there. And it's just across the street. We have the same office hours as the city hall. We have Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 4:30, and Fridays, 8:30 to 12:30. So
And Ingrid, I hear you have better parking across the street.
we have some parking across the street, yes, so please park there as well. My second announcement has to do with your city issued emails. Just a friendly reminder to please use them. And this is a reminder on behalf of the city's legal counsel. Please use your city emails exclusively. As you know, my office is the hub for public records requests. And records requests basically are requests to obtain public information that's not publicly available. So public records can include documents in all formats, including electronic and paper, as long as they relate to like government operations or conduct. Those records can be requested. So if you have emails that are subject to a records request, those actually, we have a lot of those actually come in, a couple times a year. You have a legal responsibility to provide access to them under the public records law. And this is the case even if they reside on your personal device or in your personal email accounts. So we basically have created these city emails for committee members to protect you. So please use them exclusively. I also want you guys to be good role models for Anthony because Anthony just received his password for his city issued emails. So thank you again for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Ingrid. I know that was me mostly, but Albert helped me this week, so I'm good.
Very good.
Okay, does anyone else have any announcements? Well, I just have one. I want you all to mark your calendars now for October 5th, Day in the Park. It's coming up like so fast. It's not even funny. We have like a week and 1 day until it's here. So mark your calendars. Okay, do we have any oral communications?
I just want to note, the chair, that there are 2 members on Zoom, or 2 attendees on Zoom, so you might check with them on business. They're not raising their hand now for oral communication.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes.
I'll abstain since I was not here last time.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I guess I'll second, but can we actually vote on that when we only have 2 members that were here?
Can we punt till next month?
Can even vote even they were not here as long as they read through the minutes.
I was technically listening. I don't.
Perhaps you guys can move this to next month's.
Yeah, I think
Approval.
we'll save that agenda item to the next meeting when we have a quorum of members who were actually at the meeting. Okay. That brings us to new business. Oh, I'm so excited. Our new business tonight is very special guest, Teresa Montgomery, and her assistant, Frida. I can never pronounce your last name. What is it? Pentimiento. Pentimiento. I know how to spell it. I just can't say it. And Teresa's here to present us with the South San Francisco Scavenger annual presentation on waste diversion. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, especially since just this past week, last week, we actually had, several of us went on a tour of the South San Francisco Scavengers facility. And I hadn't been for a very long time, and it was so amazing and so many improvements on site, and not enough improvements at the source of the sorting, which would be your home. So we're going to talk about that tonight too, and your businesses. So Teresa, take it away.
Thank you, Michelle. Welcome, Anthony. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me back. This is always one of the most enjoyable things I get to do as part of my job. And Frida Pensamiento joined our team last year. She's a graduate from Santa Cruz, UC Santa Cruz, and she has just hit the ground running, has been out to many businesses, apartment complexes, many events, schools. She's given more tours than I can count. She just learned super fast and then hit the road to teach everybody else what she learned. So I'm super thankful to have her here as well. She's talking trash just like the rest of us all the time. Okay, so here we are on our first slide. Oh wait, so.
Teresa, can I say one thing?
Sure.
Frida's also a board member on San Bruno Mountain Watch, and we are so grateful to have her.
It's the big button, right? It doesn't like me. Can I just, whoa, go back. Oh yeah, maybe it was just taking a minute to react to my button pushing. Okay, I'm gonna try one time, see what happens. Being patient. At you? Woo. Well, I'll jump in. The first slide has disposal data. Sounds really boring, but Adrian and I, we work every year to submit a report to the state, and it's called the Electronic Annual Report, which gets submitted to Cal Recycle, usually on August 1st of every year. And it's where we get to tell the state how we're complying with the many regulations that have to do with waste. It's kind of a report card also, in a sense. And so for 2023, which is the year we just finished reporting on, Brisbane generated 10,837 tons of landfill. And this is very similar to past years. You know, when you think about it, 10,000 tons, you know, each ton being 2,000 pounds, it's a lot of waste, but in comparison to bigger jurisdictions, it's not a lot compared to San Francisco, San Jose, some of the bigger cities. And the way that the state looks at it, they really want to know how many pounds per person per day. That's what they're asking for. And for Brisbane, they set targets. So they said, they do it two ways. They take the population of Brisbane and they divide it, they take the tons generated for landfill and divide it by the population of Brisbane. And when they do that, it turns out to 12.6 pounds of trash per person per day, at least for this past year. And then they also do another calculation where they take the tons of waste and divide it by employment numbers. So basically daytime and nighttime population. And when they do that, when they divide by employment numbers, they get 6.9 pounds of waste per person per day. Our numbers for Brisbane this year are very similar to the last 2 years. And I also know what the numbers are for our other service areas, which are Millbrae and South San Francisco. And you can imagine Millbrae has fewer businesses than Brisbane, but more homes. And so their numbers are kind of opposite of Brisbane's. South City has almost half and half. And so it's really hard to compare numbers from city to city because it's never apples to apples. It really depends on the makeup of the city. But what is important is what the state says is based on lots of data from many years, going back to when they first started to calculate this. They say, look, for Brisbane, your target is 16.9 pounds per person per day for population or nighttime data. And say 16.9 was the target. We're at 12.6. So we're considerably under the target. And then for the daytime employment number or population number, the target set was 7.9 pounds per day. We hit 6.9. So again, we're under what the state wanted to see, which is good. But of course, that still means we have work to do. We still have more trash going to the landfill than we'd like.
I have questions. What population number are you using for both populations, the population and the employment?
I did not bring that with me, but I can get it and get it back to you guys.
Yeah. And when I look at this number, the 10,837, those are two separate numbers. They're not in any way combined, correct?
The 10,837 is total tons that went to a landfill.
And then the first one is 10,837 divided by the population, and the second number is 10,837 divided by the employment.
Right.
Okay. So
So-
we don't know what percentages. Okay, got it. Thank you.
For years under AB 939, the state had a different calculation where they tried to come up with a percent diversion. And they decided that wasn't the way to go anymore because it didn't really take into account as many factors as they wanted. So they went to this calculation. So this is what Adrian and I report on and what the state looks at from year to year.
And do you have the tonnage of what they collected?
I did not bring that with me either, but I could get that.
Do you know how roughly? Because
I know roughly if you take this number represents about 63% of total collected.
that much.
Mhm.
Damn.
So, or I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Wait, it's the other way around. It's
63% is
63%
diverted,
diversion,
so
37% disposal. Thank you.
That's
My
much
hamster's
better.
not on the wheel for math. So yes, no, it's,
Thank you.
okay. Let's see if we can make it go to the next slide. Yeah, just one. You had it. It's the one that says closing the loop. So the next slide is about closing the loop. One of the things that the state has mandated that we do is show that we're closing the loop by procuring recycled and composted products. So up and down the peninsula, there's been a whole lot of talk about, well, how much mulch and compost do we have to buy back as a city and use to reach this target set by the state? In our service area, because we have the anaerobic digestion facility, we reach over half of the goal by the food to fuel project that we have. Because we're taking organic waste and making gas that we're fueling our fleet on, we're able to reach a huge chunk of this target I don't want to say easily, but pretty well. And then we reach the rest of the target by donating compost that's going into our parks and our yards. And then also the city is part of, it's called the San Mateo County Resource Conservation District Program, where many cities from the county are all part of this collective buying of compost that are going out to the coast and being used in agriculture. So rather than buying more soil than we could possibly use here in Brisbane, we're buying it and making sure that the food we eat is grown in it. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody. And again, most of the rest of the peninsula is having to buy a whole lot more in order to reach the targets. Here in Brisbane, I can't remember how much we had. Remember off the top of your head, Adrian? But it was significant, but
How much?
we bought through RCD.
25.34 tons. It's on your slide.
Oh, good, it's right there.
That was just for 2023. That program is ongoing, I think, through spring 2026 at present, but likely to be extended after that as well.
So some exciting news on this procurement front too. I've always felt like in the Bay Area in particular, we've been doing food waste sorting and recycling, composting for years, right? Well, when the state set procurement targets for every jurisdiction, they based it on kind of a state average. So what they're trying to do is recover food that was going to the landfill and releasing greenhouse gases, right? So they're basically, the numbers for procurement that they came up with were really high based on all the jurisdictions in California that were not recovering food waste. They were sending all their food waste to the landfill. Some of them are just now starting over the last couple of years. So I think over the next couple of years, we're gonna see some studies that are done that show that we didn't have that much to recover. So I think our target is gonna drop. So stand by for more information on that. But anyway, even if it doesn't, we're looking pretty good. We're, unlike many jurisdictions, we're able to hit this target.
So, you said they decided on the procurement numbers based on sort of past performance and averages. I'm wondering if there's any sort of thought given to what that sort of represents in terms of your, like, what kind of percentage that is in terms of your carbon footprint? Is anybody
Know the percent.
looking at that? Like,
It may very well be on the CalRecycle website.
okay.
They have a lot of stats on there that explain why this bill, which is 1383, was passed and what the goals are.
Also, just as a acronym person, not liking them, what is DGE again?
Oh, sorry, I should go over that. Diesel gallon equivalents.
Okay, diesel gallon equivalent.
So yeah, the way our anaerobic digestion facility works is it makes different types of gas. And it's all renewable gas. What we can make and scrub and use in our trucks to power them, we do. And then some of what we can't use in our trucks, we actually use to heat the facility. Everything has to be kept at a certain temperature to make the digestion work. So the DGEs are the diesel gallon equivalents for our truck, and then the therms are what's used to heat the facility.
And AD stands for anaerobic digester.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And do you, is this a good time to say a few words about the difference between compost and anaerobic digesting?
Yes, that's a great
'Cause
segue.
I'm always trying to explain that to people who live in San Francisco and why it's different here.
Yeah, in many areas, they collect people's yard waste and food scraps and it goes straight to a composting facility. And most composting facilities in California use windrows, basically long, tall piles of organic waste. And they water it and they turn it and it, heats up, and over several months, eventually it turns into a usable compost. There's some screening and some other processing involved, but that's it in a nutshell. We do that as well, or we send it to somebody who does that. But before that, we spend about 3 weeks digesting it. So if you come and you take a tour or you look on our website, there's a lot of information on how this digestion facility works. But we take all of the organic waste that we can and put it into this. It's permitted for 11,200 tons a year. And what we do is suck out all the oxygen, hence anaerobic, and we spray a special bacteria, which sometimes we also call a percolate, but it's a bacteria very similar to what we have in our own stomachs. And that bacteria starts to eat the organic waste, and as it does so, it creates gas. It's like, think of it as burps. So we collect the gas, the burps, and then it gets scrubbed and processed, compressed to be put into our trucks. And so after about 3 weeks, once the bacteria have done their job, they've eaten everything that they could, the gas production has stopped, then what we do is we pull out what's left. And it's about half the volume of what we started with. And that part that's left, when you look at it, it doesn't really look like what you put in your green card anymore, but it doesn't really look like soil yet either. It's kind of not quite halfway in between. So we send that to a composting facility where they use windrows and they turn it into a finished compost. So if you live in San Francisco or any area where they're not using anaerobic digestion, their rules are likely to be different from ours. Mostly what we don't want is bags of any kind, because during the 21 days in digestion, those bags don't break down. So all they do is they act as a barrier, an obstacle. The bacteria can't get through the bag to get to the food to break it down and make gas. So if everyone used bags, our facility would be worthless, basically. So that's one of the reasons we don't want bags. The other reason is, and this is becoming more and more important with composters, all California composters have basically told us, we don't want anything that looks like plastic. They also don't really want too much paper. They can take some, but not a lot. And I always tell people, you have to think of a composter's job as really the same as a baker. If you're a baker and you're gonna make a pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving, you got a recipe to make your best pumpkin pie. Well, that recipe is not gonna have, I don't know, it's not gonna have cayenne pepper in it probably. It's not gonna have certain things. Now, if you put a little sprinkling of that in there, maybe you can get by, maybe it'll be all right. But if half of what you put in your pie recipe is cayenne pepper, your pumpkin pie is not gonna be edible, right? So composters are saying, we really don't want any of that. That's not in our recipe, we can't handle it. And as people continue to do single-use disposables and put them in their green cart, they're just saying, no, and they're pushing back. So I think in the next several years, we're gonna really have no market for organic material if we don't keep it clean. No bioplastics.
Yeah, one of the things I learned last week was they absolutely don't want any plastic in the compost, because then it gets into the soil, it gets into the farms, it gets into your food. So they're really fussy about that part. And one of the other things that I learned was that why do this? Why take this extra step besides getting the methane out of it? But it reduces the timeline from household to garden by about half, I think.
It depends on who's processing
who's
it.
processing
but yeah.
it. So they can turn it a lot faster, and it starts to become profitable instead of a drag on the system. So, and South San Francisco Scavengers is at the forefront of this technology. We should be very proud that there are.
It also really helps us because if you think about if we didn't digest, we'd probably have to take twice as many loads to the compost facility. And the compost facilities are all far away.
Yeah.
So we're keeping trucks off the road by doing this too.
Yeah.
It's another benefit.
I learned too much last week, huh?
Yeah, but it's all good.
It's really
Nice
good.
one. You mentioned the bags not being desirable. Can you talk about compostable plastic in our system versus cities like San Francisco?
So my understanding from visiting many compost facilities is that they have two choices. They can either hope that all the bioplastics or all the plastics that they see in their loads truly are compostable, plant-based, and they can put it all through their composting, and they can screen it at the end and hope that they've removed plastic, or they can screen the material at the beginning of the process. And so most of them, because they want to make sure that their finished product that they're delivering to our parks and our gardens, they want to make sure it doesn't have bioplastics in it. They have to screen it at the beginning, not at the end when stuff has been ground and shredded and stuff. So whether a city allows it or not, it's not, most of it is not making it into the final product. It's being screened out by a composter and landfilled. So it's just kind of a decision. Do you let the people who participate in your programs put that in the green bin and feel good about it? Or do you tell them, no, it's trash? To me, I'd rather be honest and say it's trash, nobody wants it, please avoid it, right? So that's the difference. Some people may argue with me, give a different point of view, but how many compost facilities did we go to? We went to like 3 or 4 in the area.
I'll add on that a little bit and say that a lot of composters don't want anything that looks like plastic, which includes the bio.
Frida, can you go up to the mic?
I'll add, so a lot of composters don't want anything that looks like plastic. I think a lot more research and studies need to be done to see the long-term effects and consequences, if there are any, of the plastics breaking down naturally in the environment. So we have a Thor depackaging machine. It's like a cylinder with a bunch of hammers. So think of like the superhero Thor. And it is pushing all of our organic material through a screen, which means the plastic bags, in theory, should be separated from the organic waste. However, we can't guarantee that. So in order to be safe, we ask people to not put any type of plastic bags in their compost or organic.
Thanks, Frida. And I'll add that the Thor, the hammer guy, is only used for commercial organics. We do not put residential organics through it. Mostly, there's a few reasons, but mostly because it's expensive to put stuff through the Thor. And historically speaking, residential organics have been pretty clean. They have far less contamination in them. And also, you can't really put tree trimmings and stuff through the Thor. So it just doesn't really lend itself to processing the residential stuff. But the commercial does go through, and if somebody has bagged, if it's a bio bag, if you bought a bio bag and it's already started to really get flimsy, it's all wet and it's gotten hot in the green bin, you know, and it's already falling apart. If it goes through the Thor and little pieces of that bag get into the material that then goes into the digester, I don't lose sleep over that. Little pieces of that plant-based bag aren't going to contaminate the soil at the end. But little pieces of the petroleum-based standard plastic bag would. So you can't tell which is which. And then the other thing is, if you look at we call it the residual pile or the reject pile from the Thor, it's mostly plastic, but it's coated in, you know, cooked beans and cheese and, you know, whatever. So we're losing recoverable food waste that's stuck to the plastic contamination. So we use the Thor because we feel like we have to, and it does increase what we can recover, but it's not the answer. The answer is don't use the bags and avoid the bioplastics. Okay, we go to the next one. Let's see, the next one is my participation slide. And I am happy to say that virtually all of Brisbane, schools, government buildings, homes, businesses, everybody's got 3 or more bins for collection. You've got a garbage bin, an organics bin, and anywhere from 1 to 3 recycling bins. Most people are familiar with the split recycling cart at home, where half is for paper and half is for bottles and cans. If you're in a business, you probably don't have that split cart. You'll have 3 designated carts, 1 paper, 1 bottles and cans, and 1 cardboard. Virtually everybody has these bins now. There are a few exceptions, but very few. If you don't have one, it's either because somehow you've fallen through the cracks, but you're gonna get hit up to add that bin very soon. And that would only happen like if maybe somebody was on vacation status when we did a review and this information didn't come up, and then it will come up shortly. Also, there are, you can apply for a waiver if you can prove that you don't generate any significant organic waste, or that you absolutely have not 1 square inch of space for another bin. So on the city's website, there is a waiver form that could be filled out, but very few waivers have been granted. In general, everybody's got to participate in this program. That's just the way it is. Next slide. My next slide is on education. And I don't think you can live in Brisbane and not see stuff that is about these programs. I mean, we really work hard, Adrian and I, Caroline, everybody that's putting out, the Luminary, the Star, the Blast, our newsletters, both residential and commercial, all of our social media. Frida got us on TikTok. I was like, yay, welcome to, this decade. So there's some fun stuff on there. We even have some videos on YouTube. We've got very active websites. Our website, ssfscavenger.com, and the city's website both have tons of information about recycling and composting. Of course, you can email or call us. I have all of our contact information on here. We're always around to ask or to answer questions. And we do the best we can to do a very positive outreach campaign. Hopefully everybody's seen Ozzy the Organics Cart. We thought by making him kind of a smiley, cartoony guy, it would really get kids' attention, and people would, you don't want to wrong the cute little green cart, right? Like, you want to feed him what he's hungry for. So we've had a lot of fun. I dress up Ozzy as Frankenstein for Halloween, and anyway, hopefully everyone's seen that stuff. And then, Michelle, when you emailed me this morning, I added some notes that I wanted to just kind of insert here. We are working right now, Frida's been working really closely with the schools, and some classes may be coming to us for tours. You took a tour, and we're working on an online tour. So anybody could watch the tour from home at any time once we get this posted. It should be within the next probably 2 months, we should have it out. Because when you come on a tour, you get to see even more stuff. You saw bales of things, right, Michelle?
Oh, yeah. They're gigantic bales, like as high as the ceiling here, of already sorted and compacted material waiting to go to various recyclers. And for instance, I remember Tanner saying with the cardboard, dry clean cardboard. Let me be specific. Dry clean cardboard that's bundled in this giant bale. They have to wait till they have 40 tons?
Sounds
Yeah,
about right.
40 tons before they can actually ship it to where it goes.
It's like, I think 26 bales makes a load,
Yeah.
and each bale is a couple of tons at least, several tons.
Yeah, and I put some pictures on social media. There was a whole, giant bales of aluminum cans, which is very lucrative. But then there's giant bales of colored plastic bottles, which is not lucrative, and clear plastic bottles, which have to be separated because some people only want clear and some people can take colored. And then there's other things that I didn't want to know what they were. And then there's this incredible giant machine that you guys have made since the last time I was there. And it was utterly fascinating. I can't wait till you have the online tour, because it was like watching Dirty Jobs and reality TV all together. And first the thing comes up and it has a thing that blows the aluminum cans out. And then it has all these different sensors that pick up different pieces of garbage to depend on what their gas chromatograph spectrum is, and poof, knocks it off the can. Poof, poof, poof. It was like a scene from Harry Potter, but it's not perfect, and that means they have to run it through a couple of times. And then I posted a picture of the last chance.
Yeah, there's the bales.
Yeah, there's the last chance conveyor, where the last stuff is kind of they try to do by hand, stuff that this genius machine that they've designed and implemented, that they designed, South San Francisco Scavengers designed and implemented, still can't pick it up. And I'm watching, I'm going, this is just a miracle compared to what I saw and the hand sorting I saw the first time I toured. But the part that was really hard for me was looking at that and thinking, why didn't it get sorted at your house? Why does it have to come here and go through the belt 3 times and then go through the last chance belt to get sorted when you could have sorted it at home first?
It would absolutely help us if we had less volume and less variety of material coming in the blue
Yeah.
cards.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
But it was just amazing what I saw last week, and so much more advanced than what it was even 6 years ago.
And like you said, still not perfect. We still have human beings that are actually the last line of defense, so to speak. Like, because the suction cups that pick up plastic, like if you put a water bottle through the system, those robots are looking for a whole water bottle. If you've squished it, it's hard. These suction cups need real estate to grab onto, so they're not going to get all of it. Some of it has to be a person that picks it up. So there's in aluminum cans too, like that we use eddy current for that, and we have magnets for steel cans, whatever. Those are pretty accurate, but with the eddy current, it'll pick up a Tetra Pak box. Everybody know what those are, like a juice box, soup box. It has a layer of aluminum, but it also has polyethylene and paper. So we don't want those in the recycling, but people put them in the recycling all the time. Well-meaning, educated, lovely people do that because they believe the label on the box, even though our outreach says, please don't put those in. So if you're putting those in because you're hoping it'll get recycled, please don't. It contaminates the cardboard, or the aluminum, sorry. So yeah, we do what we can, but it's very difficult. And then another issue is that sometimes markets come and go. So we allow more things in the blue cart than we're actually able to recycle at a given time. But we don't want to have to educate people every time the markets change. So if we think something's going to have a market, we have you put it in there. So even when you're sorting, following all of our instructions, there's still going to be stuff in there that we can't market, so it's going to come off the line and go into the landfill pile, sadly. So it's important for people to understand that. Not everything you put in that blue card is going to get recycled. And then also the day you came for your tour, that morning, we had a fire in the baler. So somebody put some kind of funky battery. It didn't look like a Duracell or an Energizer. I don't know what it was.
I think they said it was a battery from like a lawnmower or a piece of machinery, because it was about this big. I got to see the remains of it.
Right? And it somehow it made it through. I don't know how it made it through, but then it caused a fire. And fortunately, it didn't cause us a whole bunch of damage where we had to close down and all that kind of stuff. They put the fire out. Everything was okay. But we've had small fires in the past, and one of the transfer stations down in San Carlos had a huge one that was very expensive and closed them down for the better part of a year, I believe. So, you know, a lot of times, I think most people know that your Energizer type Duracell batteries don't belong in the trash. I think we get fewer and fewer of those. But when you have something that you think still has value and it has a battery that's part of it, people wish cycle it. They wish cycle the toy that still lights up and does stuff, the shoes that have the batteries and the lights in it. People wish cycle stuff that still has juice. So you can't wish cycle. You got to follow the instructions. It's very important, because fires in the recycling centers are for real. They are dangerous to our staff and the public that are in there, and they can do, you know, millions of dollars of damage very quickly.
Yeah, one item that comes to mind instantly are those little tiny battery-operated votives and battery-operated candles. And you forget that they have those lithium batteries in them, and they're very dangerous. And you just throw it, they're plastic, throw it in the plastic recycling, bam.
The other item that we came up with quite a few of at Coastal Cleanup Day that someone asked early on, oh, hey, does this have a battery in it? Do we need to keep this separate? Those vape cartridges
Oh,
or
right.
pens. We found probably half a dozen of them at Coastal Cleanup Day and tried really hard to make sure we kept them all separate.
Thank you.
So
I didn't even think about that. That's a sign of
if you're
the
doing
times, right?
if you're doing a right, somebody asked me and I was like,
Well,
oh,
think
I
about
should
it.
have mentioned
When I first
that.
started doing coastal cleanups, I mean, decades ago, it was the pull tops from soda cans. Because remember, they used to come off. They didn't just stay on. It was those and cigarette butts.
There's
Now
still
you
an
don't
awful lot of
see as-
cigarette butts.
You still, but not like you did in the 70s,
Yeah.
right? Like things
Believe it.
change. But good point. I think there's legislation on the vape pens that the retailers have to take them back. I should look into that. It's something I could cover. Because they're aware that that disposal of that is costly and difficult for people because you can't just throw it in your curbside bins.
But they do.
Yeah, sadly. This is true.
Teresa, could you please explain what wish cycle is and why the batteries cause the fires? Can you explain how a battery will all of a sudden create a fire and how to properly dispose of them?
Yes, great questions. Okay, so wish cycling is when you really wish something was recyclable, so you ignore the labels on the bins, you ignore your service guides, you ignore the information on our website, the city's website, and you just think, this item is really cool, I don't want to throw it away in the trash, so I'm going to put it in this bin. So we see people wish cycle stuffed animals, luggage, cookware, types of glass that aren't recyclable. I see broken glass bowls, light bulbs. People think they wish it was recyclable, so they put it in. There has to be an end to that. People cannot wish cycle. And then on the batteries, I don't know the the chemistry of it. I just know, I mean, picture if you had a battery that still has juice in it and the terminals hit, you can spark a battery just by connecting the terminals on certain batteries. Plus, if you think of, all of our mechanics or all of the sorting lines are metal. And then also our tractors that we use to push stuff across the concrete are metal. So there's something about the batteries on metal that make stuff spark also. So I apologize for not knowing really the scientific answer to that. I just know it happens.
Somebody in the room might have an answer
It's
though.
electrochemistry. It's okay.
Electrochemistry.
Yeah, it's electrochemistry.
Okay. It's and when you think about it too, when we first had cell phones many years ago, they died pretty quickly, right? A new Motorola flip phone probably lasted 4 or 6 hours. Like you had to charge that battery and replace it all the time or whatever. Now, like phone batteries last for a really long time. They may not fire up your phone anymore, but there's still a lot of juice in them. So it's like improved batteries are making the fire hazard more severe also. So it's a trade-off. You don't have to change the battery so often or change it at all or charge it at all, but it's still a problem.
You touched on one thing that I wanted you to say more about, of like, do not put broken glass, like glassware, drinking glass, window glass, light bulbs in the recycling. The recycling is only to have bottle glass because it's a different glass formula.
Right.
And it also could really hurt somebody at the recycling center coming through all sharded if it's regular window glass or whatever. That's really important. And
Yeah.
and then there was one other thing you said to.
Would it be how to dispose of the batteries?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So if you live in a single family home, what you do is use a clear bag that you can tie off or zip across the top so it's secure. You put your household batteries in that bag. We ask that you tape the terminals on any 9 volts or lithiums. Put them in that bag on top of the closed lid of your garbage bin on collection day. Many years ago, we used to say just put that bag in your blue cart because we would pull it off the sort line. We stopped doing that because the bags would break. It was too much of a fire hazard for us. So now on the trash bin, the drivers are trained to look for those, pick them up. They have a special bin on their truck to put those full bags in. And then the theory is also, if a driver for some reason does not see the bag and it gets dumped in a trash truck, it's much less likely to cause a fire in a trash truck than it would going over a recycling line. So there's 2 reasons for doing that. But I haven't heard of any drivers missing the bags. But, raccoons, we've got raccoons and wind in this town. If you put a bag on top of your bin and they knock it off and it's in the street, that still bothers me. So there are still many drop-off places for batteries. Is there
Ace
still one
Hardware.
here?
I think still.
Brisbane Hardware. there still one here?
There is not currently, but we are discussing whether and how to bring that back. There was a collection in our lobby here and it had to go away. And now that we've moved some folks around, we're looking to see what we're bringing back.
We're trying to make it easier and easier. We do have a drop-off at Blue Line. The county's household hazardous waste will take them. Yeah, please.
Another thing I want to mention, so if you live in an apartment complex, we can also provide the landlord with a battery bucket so that they can put it next to the bins, and then the tenants will be able to dispose of the household batteries in that bucket and give us a call and we'll pick it up and when it's full.
One of the things that drives me nuts is, you know, we all know like glossy paper that's in like magazines is recyclable. And we know Tetra Paks aren't recyclable because they've got the plastic layer. Occasionally I come up with things that seems to be particularly prominent in hang tags that are like you would get on a garment or something that are plastic coated paper. And it used to be that if you tore the paper, the layer of plastic would sort of separate. And then you knew that it was garbage because it was a compound material. But I feel like there's some that that I'm able to tear, that the plastic isn't separating, but it still really feels like plastic to me. Like I'm wondering if the plastic coating technology has improved to where you've got these super, super microfilms where it's just getting harder to tell. Do you have any guidance on that?
Thanks, Frida. All I could say is if you doubt, put it in the trash.
Okay.
When in doubt, throw it out.
Yeah.
And actually, I brought some cups, paper cups that are lined to it's a related conversation. I'll get to that because it's a really good point.
Can I ask one question on batteries? Sorry to go back there. So you said household batteries can go in a bag on top of the trash can. Does that include the vape pens? And what about big household batteries like for the husband's drone?
Those would be no. We would ask you to please bring those into our e-waste BOPA center. Stands for batteries, oil, paint, antifreeze. We would take them there. We do allow cell phones in the battery bag. We ask that you wrap them in paper first, just an abundance of caution. But yeah, the bigger ones and the ones that are still attached to some toy or tool, we ask that you bring to the drop-off.
So vape pens go to BOPA.
Yeah, and actually, I think I need to cover that in our outreach.
Okay.
That's I got to make a note of that because I think will you remind me? I'm going to put that
Certainly.
in one of the next newsletters because
Can I ask a follow-on to your question about plastic?
Yeah, I have another question too,
So-
but go ahead.
Plastic, the window in an envelope from the bank, I always thought that, the paper gets effectively mulched and floated and you can just skim all that plastic off the top. Wouldn't that apply to what she was just talking about?
good question, right? I think that the paper mills are set up to take away the plastic like that. But if most of the product is the plastic, then I would say just save them the trouble of having to screen it out.
Also, a lot of the new glassine windows are not plastic anymore.
Yeah, but glassine you can recycle because it's a paper product.
Yeah.
The other question is that I've had the last couple of times I've had to do e-waste, they seem to have really reduced the number of things they want to take. So like I went to one that was over at Jefferson High, and it was just like cords, cell phones, and monitors. That was like, or maybe a little bit more, but that was basically all they were taking. And I'm wondering if that's like something that's prevalent through the whole industry, that, it's just because of the toxicity and the difficulty, this stuff is not profitable. Are you seeing like kind of a reduction across the board, or is that just specific?
I just know we use a company in the East Bay called E-Recycling of California. They're in Hayward. Very reputable, been around for a long time. And when they raise our prices, we raise yours. We're not in the business of taking e-waste to make money on it, but to just cover our costs. So if you're going to a free e-waste drop-off, they're not going to want anything that they're going to have to pay to get rid of. So I know that like they take laptops, almost everybody takes laptops for free. They must be able to recover enough amounts of whatever's in them that's valuable to cover the cost of everything.
What was the name of that company, just for reference?
E-Recycling of California. But I know, there's Green Citizen in Burlingame, obviously Blue Line here in South City. Sometimes the county does drop-offs, although with budget cuts, they haven't done one in a long time. But there's always going to be a list of what people will take for free and what they're going to charge for. And I think it does change.
Yeah, I know. I that week I put a lot more stuff in the garbage can than I would have really liked, because I'm like, I don't know what to do with this now. I didn't know if I was going to have another e-waste opportunity to get rid of some of the piddly stuff, but.
Well, and then you have to remember, anything that has a cord really can't go in any of our carts. It's got to go to a drop-off.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people get frustrated and they're like, this is just too difficult. And we went around and around, I think last year, about smoke detectors. People want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
County HHW says, we don't want them. If, depending on what year they were manufactured and by who, they may or may not be hazardous. There may or may not be a take-back program. But nobody wants to deal with them. It's one of those where, we really need the producers, the manufacturers to.
What was the resolution on smoke detectors?
For us, it's read the labels, find out what's in them. You have to do some research online.
They're so old,
And-
they don't have labels.
It's kind of like each time somebody asks a question, I have to say, send me a picture, and I have to look it up.
Okay.
The post office used to actually have a mail back program through them, but I think I don't think it's still alive. I'd have to look. But yeah, that's in newer construction, they're built in, it's different. So it kind of depends on how old is it? Anyhow, it's a whole rabbit hole we could go down again. I also wanted to mention, if contamination gets into our bales, that is not a good thing either. If we send a bale of cardboard, this is a good example.
Oh, yeah.
If we send a bale of cardboard to a cardboard recycler and there's a bunch of this stuff in it, we see this a lot in biotech companies. It's called Climacell. It's marked all over saying that it's recyclable, you recycle with cardboard, whatever. Okay. If we did this and it got to a cardboard recycler, all of the little peanuts that are inside here, you can't really tell, but trust me, there's all these little styrofoam looking peanuts in here. These are cornstarch based. So when you get them wet, they disappear. So if you sell a cardboard bale to somebody and the minute they go to pulp it, the whole thing melts, are they going to buy another bale from you ever? No. So I don't care what Climacell puts on their product. If all of a sudden all the biotechs in our service area started filling up their cardboard bins with this, we'd have a huge problem. So it's like,
Is that maybe better in the green bin?
it can go in the green bin, but again, like it gets kind of gummy,
Slimy,
it's
slimy.
right. And in our digester, if we had a whole lot of this, I think it would gum up the drains.
Okay.
It could cause problems. So it's one of those, like, I think somebody was well-meaning, but didn't have an understanding of what happens to this after it gets thrown away. So it's like, no, we need a reusable solution, not this. And then I know this has come up in Brisbane many times, right? This is
Oh, God.
the food bag. Anybody get stuff in this? So it's it's lined with a tinfoil looking whatever. People are like, what do I do with this? Again, if we had a bunch of this in our cardboard bales or our paper bales, it would get us into trouble. So, I ask that people try to understand. I know you want it to be easy, and I know you want to believe what it says on packaging, but you have to think of this. At the end of the day, we're a business. We can't recycle something that nobody wants to take from us. So, try to help us out by only putting the right things in the bins.
I hate to say it, but some people say, well, it's not my problem. I pay for garbage service, and they do it. But what they don't realize is then your garbage service price goes up and up and up because, you know,
Because
somebody
we have
has
to
to
figure out how to
pay.
deal with it.
And we're the end user, so it ends up increasing the cost of our garbage service dramatically.
I like to use another analogy on that too. Again, like think of us as a restaurant. You go to a restaurant, you look at the menu. If you're at a pub and you don't want pub food, are you going to ask them to make something that is clearly not on the menu, right? We're a trash company. We have a menu of services. We do our best to change it with the times and do what we can. But if it's not on the menu, we can't take it. We can't collect tires. We're not permitted to. We can't collect certain kinds of hazardous waste, right? Like we only can do what we're allowed through our permits to do. Anyway, okay. I won't get too much into that. I think I covered everything on here. And thank you, Alejandra, for the good question. I wanted to make sure I did tell people how to properly get rid of stuff. And thank you, Frida, for mentioning the battery buckets we do offer for multifamily. We haven't had a lot of apartment complexes take us up on that because it does require somebody on site to keep an eye on the bucket. You don't want it to get, be half full of batteries and then somebody uses it as an ashtray and starts a fire. Like somebody has to pay attention. Somebody has to call us when it gets full. So if there's no on-site manager or tenant that would keep eyes on it, then it's a no. You're going to have to use a drop-off. But otherwise, we do offer it, and it is no charge if it's used correctly. Okay, let's go to, before we leave this slide, on the right there, show of hands in the room. Has anybody seen that tag? No? Rita's seen it. You got one? Michelle's seen
Oh,
it.
no, I don't think I have actually.
So, but it's possible we would put one on a, anyway. We tag all the time with tags that say you did something wrong, and it upsets people. And we're sorry for that. We hope that when people get a tag that says they did something wrong, that they'll just accept it as a nice way of us saying, hey, please do better next time. We assume you weren't aware. Here's what you need to correct. But these tags are meant to say to the people who we can tell really read up, really are doing a good job. We want them to feel seen and appreciated. So it's kind of random. We haven't gone to every house by any means, but when we go to houses and we see that somebody has sorted stuff correctly into all of their bins, they will get a tag. And so far, we've been able to give a small credit on people's bills when you get that tag.
Oh, I didn't know
So it's just, it's not a lot, but it's just a way of telling people it matters and we see what you've done. Okay, can we go to the next slide, Adrian? It's just graphics. It's pictures. Here we go. So Frida and I work with a wonderful guy named Jose. He's up in the top right corner. You may have seen him, or you might have seen me. You might have seen Frida. You might have seen Randy. Many of us have been out on the streets looking in bins, trying to see what are people confused about? What do we need our education to say? And we're leaving tags, like I said, good or bad. These pictures across the top, the first two are perfectly sorted recyclables into a split recycling cart. And the third one is looking down into a green cart where somebody clearly understood no bags, food waste, and yard trimmings. They did a fabulous job. And then the last picture, the top right, is Jose. He's probably tagging that cart just for an overload, but it's possible he's also tagging it because he can see there's food waste in there or there's bottles and cans in there. You might be leaving a tag saying, hey, you have bins for these other things. Please sort correctly. And then across the bottom, of course, are just some of the examples of our outreach. We've been really trying hard to cover what's important. The bottom right, we wanted people to know, hey, we're out leaving these tags. Please don't freak out when you see us out there. We're not there to yell at you or call you names. We're there to see how people are doing. And we're leaving a note around the tag or around the handle of the cart. That's all that is. And then on the blue cart, I think there's still a lot of confusion about what plastics belong under the dark blue lid. So we recently did a social media post and a trash talk article about the plastics. And basically what we said is consistently now, it's 1, 2, and 5 plastics that we can recycle. Rigid. It's got to be a container. Thank you, Chris. If it's a film plastic, meaning a bag, it's a no. If it's a tube, like a toothpaste tube, it's a no. If it's a number 3, number 4, number 6, which is the dreaded polystyrene and styrofoam, and number 7, which just means not 1 through 6. If it's any of those numbers, it doesn't belong in the blue cart.
I found out you're not taking clamshells anymore either.
We take them if they're a number 1. It's a rigid plastic container, and for a time we were able to recycle them. And I'm waiting to see if under this new law, SB 54, if it's going to be included in the yes or the no. If they include it in the yes, I have to think markets are going to rise to the occasion. If not, we might have to remove it. It's probably another question you can answer.
No, it's exactly the, it's, I think the broader version of her question is, I am guilty of wish cycling plastics that are those numbers but not beverage containers, and I want to know if that's bad or good. So
If
how
they were
do I
food or
know
beverage-
if it's a rigid plastic, does it have to be hold a liquid, or can I see something that looks like a tomato or a fig plastic clamshell here, and then the takeout containers from restaurants that are the black bowl on the bottom and the lid?
These
You
are
know,
great questions.
If those are the right numbers, can they go in there if they're rinsed?
We accept them. We won't not pick it up. You won't get a tag that says don't because you followed the instructions. But truth be told, there's not much of a market for those, at least currently. So it's always better if you can bring your own to-go bin. You know, if you can avoid those, please do. Otherwise, you can put them in and hope for the best. With the number 5 plastics, a lot of those we're having to sort by hand. We do a pretty good job. If you come to Blue Line and you drop off big, heavy, durable plastics like kids' slides and wagons and laundry baskets and big storage tubs, those get recycled, but they're not worth anything. So we charge to take them and recycle them. The smaller the yogurt tubs, we keep being told that market's gonna appear, because I think SB 54 is going to require that we all take them in the blue cart. So we still want them. We're recovering some small amount of them, but it's hard. Right now, it's the number 1 and 2 bottles and jugs and jars that are always recovered.
I found that those black plastic bowls with the clear lids and square things and all of those, even though they are not all standard sizes and everything, that I put them through the upper rack of the dishwasher, and we use them for storage now. And as all of my other things are wearing out, those are kind of taking over, and take them, give food away in them and stuff like that. So
Reuse is great.
yeah,
as
it's
much
just
as possible.
when you wash it, you want to match the lid up with the bottom right away, so you're not going because they don't all fit on each other. And the same thing with those plastic things that they sell you, that soup comes in, and you want to make sure that you keep
Yeah.
the lid with the thing.
Yeah, I think I said, like, one of your times you were here with us like 3 or 4 years ago, could we just standardize on plastic
God,
takeout
yeah.
containers? Because you can't avoid them completely. I mean, we mostly take
True.
our own containers to the restaurants to be filled like 90% of the time, but occasionally, it's an impulse dinner out or something, and you end up with containers, and it'd just be so nice if they all fit together.
The other thing is
Had interchangeable
Agree.
lids.
a lot of restaurants will not take your
Yeah.
container into their kitchen to fill it up. They won't. They
won't.
can't. It's against the health rules. You can take your leftovers home in your own container, but they will not use your container for, they just won't.
That reminds me of something new that Frida and I learned at a meeting. So if you go to Starbucks, a gal from corporate Starbucks said that one of their biggest problems is that the majority of their business is now through mobile ordering, right? It's either drive-through or ordered on the app. People swing in and they get it. So they're like, it's hard to figure out, how do you do a reusable? You could charge for somebody to pick up that cup in a reusable, and then when they come back and pick up another one, they leave the first one, and you know, there's ways to do that, but evidently, and I had to check this out, if you use their app, when you're picking your coffee, if you customize it, you change something, you want to go less ice, or you want to add a pump of vanilla or whatever, at the very bottom of the customization screen, it says something like bring your own cup, or reusable. You can toggle this thing that says I'm coming in with my own cup, and what they're supposed to then do is make your coffee in a reusable cup, you pour it into yours, and then you leave. So I haven't tried that yet, because I try to make my coffee at home every day, but the next time I go, I keep a cup in the car. I'm going to try that and see if it actually works. I did nag at her a little bit. I said, there's no sign that says that. It's buried in your app. If you want people to actually use this, you have to advertise it. But anyway, I mentioned this because I feel like we're getting there. People are starting to experiment with different ways to do stuff. So, fingers crossed, hopefully we see less and less disposable stuff. I wanted to spend the rest
Teresa,
of the time.
can I just quickly share a couple of things on the reusable cup thing? So in Half Moon Bay, we have a couple of cafes. I think this was something they tried to do countywide and looked for some cafes that would participate. But we have one that I frequent that is participating in the reusable cup project or program. It's called Okapi, OKAPI, and you just scan a QR code at the cafe and they give you a cup. You can have up to 2 of them checked out at a time, and then you take them back next time you go or get a new one. There's a project, we were just trying to remember, Alejandra Googled it, in Petaluma, where they're rolling this out across the
Purple
city.
cup or something like that?
Was it I don't remember.
They're definitely purple.
Oh, yeah, they're purple.
Yeah, not familiar with the details, but it's starting to happen. So
Yeah, and in Petaluma, my understanding is they hit it like citywide, all coffee. It's not just Starbucks, just if you're a coffee place there, you are part of this. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to get more data from them the next time they give a report, for sure. Fingers crossed, because I swear the coffee cups. I brought cups. I might have done this before, and if you've heard me talk about cups before, I'll apologize. But so Chris gave me this one today. It's from a boba shop in town, and I saved these. I love the boba. I'm just gonna say it, right? These are great. This is the reusable. If you have one of these, it doesn't have to be the one from the shop, but it could be, or, you can use this thing a gazillion times. It's double walled. It's going to keep your stuff cold. It's all reusable. This one and the one Chris got are slightly different, but what number was yours, Chris? Sometimes they're a number 5, sometimes a 6, sometimes a 7. Most of the time, they're a 5 or a 1. This one for sure is a number 1. And the straws are sugarcane, I think, yeah, right? I think they're sugarcane, so they're compostable. What gets me on these is most of the people who go to the boba shop go all the time. So if you had one of those programs where you got a reusable and you brought it back the next day, it would totally work. And you think about how many fewer cups we'd have just in our little town here from the boba shop. So, and then because you can't really tell the difference between if a cup is a number 1, a number 5, a number 6, or a number 7, it's a problem for sorting, right? And then plus they're hard for the robots to get. And then this one, I think this is one of those lids that was really intended to not have a straw, but with boba, you kind of have to have one. But when you go to Starbucks, a lot of the times now you don't need a straw for anything, right? Because they give you the lids that, anyway.
Do you still not want lids a lot of times? I know they used to not be wanted because they got caught in the machinery and stuff.
So on like a bottle, if you leave the lid on, that's fine. But if you put just a lid in, it's not. And then coffee cup lids from to go, there's no market for them at all, period. The ones that really look like paper, you know, like the brown craft paper looking lids, those will compost. Those would be okay. But then again, so these are all hot cups from every coffee place I could think of. I got McDonald's, Phil's, Pete's, Starbucks, Dunkin'. And they all look the same, pretty much, right? But some of them are lined with polyethylene, some are lined with a plant-based material. So these are an issue. You have people that, you know, spend a lot more money to have this disposable that's stamped BPI certified compostable. You know, it's got all that great information, but you know, when it's going through the compost, if it's going through the Thor, more than likely it's going to get pulled out as residual and landfilled. If it goes straight into our digester, if it breaks down and it had polyethylene lining, you pretty much just contaminated the final product. So when people ask, can I put these in the compost? You know, my answer really is no. I don't, you know, we say we take food soiled paper, and if it's truly paper and plant-based, we should be able to take it. But because there's such a variety and you can't tell what they're lined with, I say they're garbage.
Okay. Would the tearing trick work on that, you think?
I think all of these tear.
Yeah, but I mean, like, does the plastic separate?
Not really.
It's not going into paper recycling, though. It's going into the green waste.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, so then
And then there are some jurisdictions that will take these and milk cartons in the paper recycling. But when you do that, you're welcoming food residual, milk, whatever, into your paper stream. So you're going to have a decrease in quality of your paper. So you're giving up one thing to take another. And then that's a related topic. Anybody seen these?
Yeah.
Right? This one, like, I think they're really trying to do a good thing. They're FSC certified paperboard, plant-based liner, all that. Okay, great. But not every milk carton is doing that. Most of them are lined with polyethylene. So we can't accept this because we're going to get that. You know what I mean? So these are the things that I really hope the legislation that's coming through is gonna help this situation.
And then they have the little plastic spout ones on the
we
side.
always cut those,
and
yeah.
then-
Yeah, which you can cut out, or, you know, my understanding was at compost facilities, those stay whole and they can be screened out. You don't want them, but now the composters are saying they don't want any of it because of the lining.
So if I had just to be clear, if I had a lid that was not a compound material, it didn't have like a rubber plastic gasket melted onto the inside, it was just plastic, and that it was happened to be a #1 plastic lid that was marked #1 plastic without any, you know, compound materials, you still would not want it.
If it was on a bottle, like Michelle's
Okay.
bottle, it will go to the plastics recyclers, and it literally has been 30 years since I've been to a plastic recycler, so I'll apologize, but at that time, what I saw them doing was cutting off the lids, and the lids did get downcycled. They got turned into something else, not as high a quality of something as the rest of the bottle. But if you put it in loose,
But like if it's a margarine tub, you know, and my margarine tub has, like let's just say it just has a #1 plastic lid, it's not going to stay on
gonna
that
stay on,
margarine
right?
container.
it's going to come off. More than likely, if it comes off, it's not going to get
Okay.
recycled. But you know, stick it on as tight as you can and hope for the best. Again, probably the robots wouldn't grab it, but a human being would recognize it for what it is. It might get recycled.
Okay.
Does the audience have any questions?
Yeah.
I talked a lot.
Monopolizing things here.
Please come up to the podium to ask your questions.
My question is, what makes the recycling and composting processing change?
Thank you, Jimmy.
I think what makes it change is available markets and available technology. Those two things. If we're not able to sort it, like think about sorting little tiny lids. It's, you know, a needle in a haystack kind of thing. If it's too inefficient to sort it and there's no machinery that could do it in an automated fashion, then it's unlikely to be recycled. And then again, if for us, we could try to find a way to collect lids all day, but if no one ever comes to us and says, we want those, then what good was it, right? So there has to be a demand and an ability to sort it.
Yeah, one of the things that where Ecology has an advantage, not Ecology, South San Francisco Scavengers has an advantage, is they have really high quality material to recycle because of the work that they do in sorting and baling, so that they still have a market for a lot of their materials where other people, other waste companies don't have a market anymore because China won't take a lot of this stuff now because they're overloaded with garbage from the US that's not properly sorted or usable.
You know, and something I would say too, my personal opinion is if something isn't sustainable long-term, if closing the loop isn't sustainable long-term, then I want to rethink it, right? There are many jurisdictions in the state that reward their hauler purely on volume recycled.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if it costs them a ton of money to do it or not. Doesn't, you know, they reward purely by pound or by ton. I don't think that's the way to do it. You know, could we be recovering Tetra Pak? Could we be recovering these paper lined cartons and stuff? We could, but I'd rather have those products redesigned, replaced with something better. I don't want to enable this continuous encouragement to make irresponsible stuff.
Yeah, better to stop it at the source and work your way down from there.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, like it's better to sort at the source. Does anyone else have any questions? Anyone online have any questions?
Thank you, Teresa. I'm Beth Grossman. We talk regularly because I'm trying to do the best I can, and I'm trying to do everything I can to keep things out of the landfill, and I don't want a wish cycle. So I have a bunch of little questions about what, because it gets so confusing, I don't know what to do, but I have a bigger question. This morning I read a really disheartening article that California is suing Exxon because for making all of these plastic products and marketing them as recyclable, but that we're only really able to recycle less than 6% of what they are collecting. So all of this effort, and all the millions of little questions that I have, and also every time you go to any other municipality or country, they're all completely different. So it's so confusing. So I wanted to ask if you heard about this lawsuit. I'm sure you have, and if you would address it. And then I also have some little nitpicky like questions about what to do, like, you know, around like how much water is it worth? Like I actually put my yogurt containers in the dishwasher because so that they'll be clean and not have oil residue. But then how much water is it worth it to use if it's not really being recycled? And then you also said that they only take glass jars, glass bottles. So what about like mayonnaise jars or those are okay? With the cover on or off? But does somebody have to do it by hand with the metal, the metal tops or the plastic tops? Okay.
What happens with glass jars, like think a jam jar or whatever, when it gets to us, eventually the glass is broken and the magnet's going to pull out that lid if it was metal. If it was a plastic lid, it's going to end up in the garbage.
The whole thing?
Just the lid. The glass will get recycled. And yes, it could be a bottle or a jar. Our concern is the markets for glass are for what's called soda lime glass. and it has to not be laminated. So it can't be like mirror glass, it can't be auto glass, it can't be Pyrex.
Drinking glasses,
Yeah, no, right?
light bulbs.
It's got to be your wine bottle, even most lab glass, because we have a lot of labs around here. Most lab glass is not recyclable because it's meant to be superheated. It has a higher melting temperature. So, so that's what it comes down to is if it's a bottle or a jar and it had food or beverage and some cleaning products, we can recycle it. Go ahead and put it in. And I would say if it's got a plastic lid, you could put the plastic lid in the garbage. If it's a metal lid, you could leave it on the jar. The yogurt washing thing. Okay, so for any container, part of the reason that we have dual stream recycling is because we don't want the paper to get food on it. So if you were to put a yogurt tub that still had a bunch of yogurt in it in a bin where it's mixing with your paper recyclables, it would be a problem. But because we do it separate, we're not that worried about the residual. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to get like ants in your recycling because there was a little bit of yogurt in there, right? It might have a smell or a goopy recycling cart. But I usually say, we say empty and rinsed, but not scrubbed clean. Not, you don't have to wash it on the sanitized thing through your dishwasher. So I would say I wouldn't bother to put it through the dishwasher. I would just, try to eat everything out of it, rinse it once, and then put it in the recycling.
So the oil in the plastic doesn't affect anything unless it gets somehow onto your
Onto the paper. Exactly.
Okay.
What did I forget?
Just I want to mention, if you have something that has oil in it, don't rinse it down the sink. Wipe it out with a paper or something, paper towel.
And then that
Or
paper towel can
can
go in
go
your
in-
green bin.
Yes,
Well,
right.
you can
Barbara
take
knows.
oil in the green bin.
Small amounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You deep fry a turkey and you dump a gallon of oil in your cart, that's not okay. But if you, fried an egg and you used a paper towel or a piece of newspaper to absorb that little bit of oil in your pan, then you can put that in your green cart.
Paper
Yeah.
towels can go in your green cart.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, definitely.
Again, it goes back to the bakery. If everybody was only putting paper towels in their green cart, it's not going to make a good compost. But, a couple used to mop out the oil in a pan is going to be okay.
What about tissues, facial tissues?
Usually we say those are better in the garbage. It just depends because what's on them. Right?
But you don't want to be putting oil down the sink because that creates a whole other problem.
right.
For
Plumbing
the
problems.
plumbing and sewer?
Yep. Creates fatbergs,
Mhm.
causes a lot of sewage blockage, and then when we try to process the sewage, it clogs up the whole system. This the infrastructure we're paying for now to get.
So if I have oil
Repassed.
that's gone rancid, keep it in the bottle, put it in the garbage, the gray bin?
If it's gone rancid, that's a
Or I
good
want to
question.
dispose of it, or like, health and beauty products, any kind of,
In general, we
liquids.
don't want liquids.
even in the regular garbage?
In the garbage, small amounts, but again, you don't want to dump like a gallon of something in. A little bit. We always say try to use it up. If you can't, something's gone. It depends on what it is. Like the county takes some things, if it's fuel or,
Yeah, rancid oil could probably go to a biofuel.
I know, but it's
Person.
like a little bit in the
Oh, a
bottle,
little bit,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
I have a big bottle that's got space, so next time we walk, bring it over and I'll try to figure it out on my own.
Well, that's the other thing that I wanted to ask you about.
you ask the best
Do it in
questions,
the
Beth.
microphone. So it's being recorded. So speak into the microphone.
Okay, so the last question I asked you, I wanted to bring it up here about those, your coffee comes in those foil bags, chips, candy bars, all those kinds of things. We talked about this, but there's no place to put them. It used to be, we used to take them to REI. We've been saving 6 months. It is actually a lot. And the only way to get rid of them is through TerraCycle. And
Recycle, yeah.
yeah, but we have to pay for that. We have to pay for a service. So we were actually thinking, we live in a small town of people that care and we work together. Is there a way we could do it by block or somehow pay it together, because we don't need TerraCycle to come for our little amount of
Yeah.
coffee bags or whatever.
I ran the TerraCycle program through BES for about 5 years, and they've really kind of scaled back even on on their programs. But sometimes if there's a TerraCycle group on Facebook, and sometimes if you have a really large quantity, you can contact somebody else who's on the brigade, and they will mail you a label so that their brigade gets credit. They get credit for their.
But it's
and
expensive also to mail things.
Yeah.
you
Sometimes
know.
it used to be free to mail stuff back to them. It's not anymore.
Yeah, and the same thing, we went through this together about the fire alarms, smoke detectors, and it's like, so we still have them, we didn't know what to do with them. The suggestion was we send them to this place, but we have to pay to dispose of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like almost 20, you could buy new ones, which we have because we had to, but what are we going to do with these old? So they're just taking up space in our house. So I feel like there's somehow or another we have to put our heads together so that we don't have all this garbage sitting around our house, which is also fire hazards, particularly the batteries. So that's what I wanted to ask. And then this question of how much if we're going to all this effort, trying to educate everyone, trying to do the best we can, and then if you could address the Exxon suit, that would be great.
With the coffee thing, you could go low tech and go back to using just a filter and a Melita filter. That's what I do.
No, it comes in the package that you buy it in.
Yeah.
Right, the foil bag.
The foil bag.
No, where I get mine, it comes in a paper bag, and I rip the strip off the top that makes it fold, and I stick it in the drawer and reuse it. So it's a change of habit.
I haven't seen that. But.
When we are moving towards, legislation that requires an upstream solution. So if somebody still wants to sell Beth's favorite coffee in this bag that's impossible to recycle, they're going to be on the hook to cover the cost of its end of life. So I don't know what that looks like yet. I don't know how that is going to pan out.
It filters down to cost for the consumer.
Yeah.
And really,
They're
that's what
paying.
TerraCycle has done. That they're in the business of a company who's using packaging that can't be recycled mainstream. They are telling them, we'll do this take-back program for you. We'll recycle it for you. Then you can write that it's recyclable on there. So, I find that to be greenwashing frankly. But, okay, so, that's why they've been in business. But that's now, they're being called out for that.
Good.
So it's going away. There are some other little collection services that have been popping up all over the West Coast. Little, companies that will, for a charge, pick up hard to recycle things from people. And I have a real hard time with it because I feel like it goes against what we're trying to do. And we're trying to put the pressure on the manufacturer and teach new behaviors and get people to, buy products that are made responsibly. I don't want people to feel good about something because they can afford to pay an extra $15 a month or whatever for some gourmet service to come by their house.
And then at the end of the day, when you send it back to them, does it really get recycled? Do they really take apart each one and take out the little paper filter? I've cut them apart before to see what was in them when AAA went to using them at their facility where I used to work. And I was horrified because there's no way that actually, I can't believe they take off the little foil top and they take out the little cup and they take out the little plastic thing and they wash off
They
in
might.
the paper.
They might if
Give
they're
me a
being
break.
paid for it, Yeah.
It's greenwashing, and the whole coffee pod thing, I think is just a horror show. I really, really do. They should be outlawed.
But as far as the Exxon suit, I need to read up on it. I did see it on the news 2 mornings ago, and I perked up and went, say, what's happening? Because I've known for a long time that, the vast majority of plastics that are out in the world are not getting recycled. And the ones that are getting downcycled. So aluminum and glass that get recycled, if you buy a wine bottle, it can be a wine bottle again, 100 times. It never degrades in quality. It is truly recyclable. Plastic and paper gets downcycled. Each time it goes into a blue bin, it gets turned into something of lesser quality until it no longer can be turned into something usable, right? So with plastic, I always had a problem with it. I've always been angry that that symbol came to mean recycling and the plastics industry didn't do anything about it. You know, it's like I said, number 7 plastic. Who allows that? Who allows a number that just means not 1 through 6? I mean, the stupidity of that, I can't wrap my head around it. It makes me angry. And then it comes to us, we're supposed to figure out what to do with it. And it's like, you made it and you're not coming to me saying you'll buy it back. My hands are tied. So, you know, if I don't know what's going to happen with this lawsuit, but worst case scenario, it raises awareness. People are going to go, wait, what? How little is being recycled? Wait, what? They've always known that what they were putting on their product, that symbol doesn't mean recycling, and they never changed it. You know, all of a sudden, at least we're thinking about it. And so, in terms of that, I think it's good.
Yeah.
We'll see what it does.
Sorry. Can I add one more that we should probably think about? Pressure on the manufacturers? The stickers that go on fruit.
Yes.
Oh, God, yes.
There's a big regional push for that, because if they made it out of something cellulose-based or whatever, it would, you know, maybe be okay. But yes, those need to be taken off. If you're throwing out some piece of fruit that went bad, or your banana peel, you ate the banana, you're throwing away the peel, it's got the sticker on it, please take the sticker off, they're trash. They end up as the little pieces in the compost. It's not good.
Our little sink green bin, the last one we had, was covered with stickers.
Well, at least you took them off, right? You knew what you were doing.
I think I'd like to table a thought. Maybe we should not do the reorg today, since like half of our committee's gone.
Yeah. Do we have any, can we finish this though? Do we
Yeah,
have any more
yeah, we'll
questions?
get to that when we.
Yeah, I just want people to think about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I do have comments from the people who are not here.
Okay.
Okay.
great.
Covered everything I can think of.
And Chris had a,
Oh, yes, Chris, please go ahead.
Chris Flarkowski. I have a million questions for Teresa, but I'll actually coordinate with you and we'll get her to write about them. How's that? What I'd like to go back to is that number that was on Teresa's first slide. How many tons are we sending to the landfill?
10,837.
Yeah. And I'd like to challenge this committee to take up Brisbane as a zero waste city and see what we could do. We can't do it in a year, can't do it in 3 or 5, but if we're not aiming for that, we'll never get there. And I suggest one of the places that we might begin, it came to me when I attended the event at the community park where we had fire service, police service and such, and I saw the refreshment table with the foil bags of chips and the Costco muffins in those plastic containers. And what if we were to begin with the city events that we have here in the park and see, we can't do Day in the Park this year with that in mind, but we can do some measurements so that we can have our baseline for the future and see how well we could handle this. Instead of going to Costco and getting those muffins, we go to Bakers of Paris and see if they can deliver them to us in boxes. You know, what can we do? And can we make use of local businesses rather than getting things shipped in from elsewhere? And see what's possible. One other thing on the e-waste, we are having fix-it clinics. There's one this Friday, 10:30 in the morning at Redwood City Library. I'll be there with the other coaches and we can see if we can fix things. Thank you.
oh, I'd love it if he fixed my flip phone. Not going to happen, but we'll try. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
On the Fix-It Clinic point, I saw there was some upcoming ones in South San Francisco as well, and passed along a marketing for
First
that
Monday,
to Caroline.
yeah,
So
first
it should
Monday
be.
of the month.
Yeah, I didn't get it to her in time for today's blast, but it should be in there next week. So
And you said you had questions online? Did you?
no.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I just had a random question. Nail polish bottles, do you know if that's a recyclable glass or is that a garbage glass?
That's a really good question that I should also follow up on. I believe they're not recyclable.
Okay, I would
Mostly
guess
'cause of the-
so, but I just
right.
happened to empty a couple recently and I haven't, they're still sitting on my shelf, like, what do I do with this?
And I actually think they may need to go to hazardous waste.
Oh,
It's possible. So I will follow up on that one too. That's a good one along with the vape pens for me to
Okay.
follow up on. I
Great.
just got those.
And
Yeah.
smoke
Nail
detectors,
polish
did we figure
bottles.
that one out too?
Smoke
or-
detectors, some of these I really just I cannot give a good answer. Beth and I researched the heck out of that. And it was
hazardous
so
waste
frustrating.
used to take certain types of them, but I don't know.
Okay.
And
Take
now-
it to hazardous waste and see what they tell you. Maybe.
One other thing is, I'd suggest, in addition to the tour that you just took, you saw how illuminating that was. Also, if the city could host a tour to Ox Mountain to actually visit the landfill where our stuff goes and see what happens to it.
I'm not sure I want to know. Chris, I already don't sleep at night.
It is actually one of the most beautiful tours I've taken because you're up at the top of the hill and you can see all the way out to the point where they do the Maverick surf contest and you can look all the way south from there. It is just a gorgeous view on a clear day. And they do a good job of reclaiming gas that's created once they close, sections of the landfill. It's very educational. It might be possible to put together a tour there. I've actually, my whole career, I've only been there once, and that was it. So, it is good, but then you're up there and you're thinking, I should be camping and hiking here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's disturbing in the same, but anyhow, it's better than dumping it into the bay.
I agree.
All
I
that
agree.
landfill is lined and
Yep.
they're handling the leachate and they're handling the seagulls and they're doing the best job that they can. And if that landfill ever closes, we're going to be in a world of hurt because where are we going to go?
Yeah.
But maybe we'll be zero waste by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really
Right.
does.
Okay.
I think I heard Ox Mountain something like 80% full or something. Like it's not. Yeah. Okay.
So how do we sign up for having a tour of Scavenger? I've taken of Ecology. It's super interesting, but I didn't know you had it. And then I was also wondering if it could be like a standard field trip for the elementary school and the middle school so that the kids all know what's happening with it, and because we have to develop the next generation. And they might actually correct their parents who are seriously wish cycling, because I see it on my block.
So Frida has been working with our friend Gerald Schwartz, who works for the San Mateo County Office of Sustainability. The county contracts with a busing company every year to provide free busing to schools, and it gets announced out through the whole county to all schools, and it's kind of a first come, first serve who gets the buses. So it's hard, you can't guarantee that every school will get to do a tour every year. Like we wouldn't be able to say that every year all fifth graders get to come. But we do give tours, if other transportation can be provided, we will give tours to school groups. That is something we have done for years and think is very important. Like Beth said, the kids go home and they school their parents and their neighbors, and it's the most fabulous tool we have in our pocket. As far as public tours, before the pandemic, we gave a public one every year around Earth Day. And we kind of shut that down for a while. We're considering whether or not we would want to bring it back up. The tour we just gave that Michelle was on was because we were contacted by city staff who said, we have some new people here that would like to come see the workings. And we said, okay, let's make it happen. So what we really just need is to have enough of a group of people to make it worthwhile. Usually we say, 12 to 18 people is kind of the sweet spot. If you have too many more than that, it's too unruly, and too few, it's not a great use of all of our staff time, because it does take a lot of staff time. And then also you need to be aware, our facility was not really set up for tours. It's set up for efficiency and for recovery. So if it rains and it's super wet there, we'll cancel tours because we don't want to take the chance that somebody's going to slip and fall. We won't let people, like, no strollers, no heels. You know, you would be surprised how many people show up for a tour in stiletto heels, stuff like that. Like, it's happened, believe me.
that wasn't me.
You know, it happened once with the Littman Shadowing Day. One of the kids showed up in 3-inch heels, and I was like, "You're at the trash company." Anyway, but we would just need to, maybe I can work with Adrian to get a date on the community calendar and see if we can get enough people signed up to do it. I think that would be a good idea. And then really, we're doing this online tour because we know we just can't accommodate all of the requests that come in. And we have a lot of people who don't even live around here who want to come because they want to see our anaerobic digestion. They want to see the robot sorting. They want to see the new technology. And we can't, if you're out of our service area, generally we say we can't accommodate. But for community members of Brisbane, South City, Millbrae, we usually bend over backwards to get you in.
I have an idea, which I just thought about it. We could organize like a movie night where we have the video of your facility. And if you can join us, that would be great to like answer questions. So we just make an event.
Could we combine it with Wall-E?
Oh, like the movie.
I mean,
Movie night. That's an interesting
that's a
idea.
great idea. I like that a lot.
We, many years ago, when I first was on OSEC, we did a screening of No Deposit, No Return.
Ooh.
The documentary from 1964 on the dump out here, the Baylands dump. And this room was packed. It was really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back and watch footage from that.
That's available on if you go to the city website, it'll lead you to the San Francisco State Archives to watch that. Absolutely fascinating.
It is. It's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I know I've taken a lot of time here. I really appreciate it. I know that folks that are here and are watching and listening are probably the choir, so to speak, preaching to the choir. But if every member of the choir shares what they learned and continues to ask questions, you can email me directly if you want. My email is Teresa, Teresa, @ssfscavenger.com. Or you can email our general email box, which is info@ssfscavenger.com, and we will reply within a business day. And of course, you can always go online and hopefully if you navigate around our website, you'll find information that's helpful also. Everything's a work in progress. Lots of stuff is changing right now. I have to admit, I have not had a chance yet to update all of our outreach. Some of our organics program brochures and flyers still show that we'll take milk cartons, for example, because that just changed within the last about 6 months. And so we're not refusing to pick up milk cartons from a green bin, but we're trying to educate people slowly and update our information. Even the plastics, we haven't had a chance yet to update stuff. This new bill that I mentioned earlier, SB 54, I'm waiting for the dust to settle on that so I know what the state thinks we should be taking in each of the bins, and then I want to make sure we're in alignment with that. I don't want to have to print new labels for everybody's carts more than once in a short period of time. We're trying to be efficient. So please be patient with us. Not everything that we're putting out is perfect at the moment, but we're working on it. And we really appreciate and acknowledge everyone's efforts. It is a pleasure to work in Brisbane. I think 9 out of 10 Brisbaneans care, I would say. Maybe more than 9 out of 10. And it makes our job here very enjoyable. So thank you.
And if you think this was fun, come on October 5th, the day in the park, because Teresa and Frida will be sharing a booth with OSEC, and you will have an opportunity to practice sorting, and there may be swag. So definitely come to our booth on October 5th and learn more, bring your questions. Let's do the Stump Teresa the Trash Talker.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Okay. It's really hard to get my mind off trash now, Teresa. We go on to staff updates.
It's getting
Late.
rather late, and I don't have anything that can't wait. So I'm going to just say I've got nothing today. Unless you have something that you wanted to follow up with me about, then feel free to ask a question. I don't know. Yeah.
Same for me.
Anyone?
Fantastic.
The next item on the agenda was our subcommittee reports and reorganization.
Can I make a motion that we table this till next meeting?
Is there a second?
Well, I'm just going to say I think we should at least give a consideration because we have a new member who is
Oh,
not
good point.
on
Good point.
any subcommittees. So if we don't have any urgent updates from the subcommittees, I think we can jump over most of that. But I'd like to at least give an opportunity for Anthony to throw out any subcommittees he might want to be on. And maybe we can just go from there to see if further reshuffling is needed. It may be that the things he wants to be on have an opening. We can pop him in and everything else can just stay the same.
Before we do that, sorry, Anthony, I would like to suggest that the Dark Skies Subcommittee and the Invasive Species Subcommittee both passed ordinances this year. And so those subcommittees seem like they could be removed. And then if we have new business that needs to happen, they could be reestablished in the future. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think we've done adequate outreach for the time being, so I would second that motion.
Comments, questions?
I'm totally on board with that. I'm not concerned about
Okay,
those.
we have a motion on the table. Vote?
Aye.
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 Great.
And that carries. Okay, so we should go ahead and sort of talk and get an idea of what are you interested in
I
taking
think it's
on?
all about Anthony.
It is all about Anthony. You're the new star. It's all about you. What are you most interested in? Where's your passion?
Well, so I mean, I think you know, I'm most kind of tuned in and interested with anything that has to do with greenhouse gas reductions specifically. So I was sort of looking at
Building decarbonation?
building decarbonization is definitely one. Education and outreach, I think I have some interest in. I was also looking over the Baylands specific plan, probably chapters 5 and 7. Felt like that was sort of in that ballpark. But beyond that, I'm you know, happy to be wherever there's space and there's help needed. Pretty flexible.
I think that sounds really good.
Do we have to make motions, or is that just done because those all of those committees need a member?
I think we can just call it done. I don't know if we need to make a motion on that, and all of them have room for you to join them. So, yeah, we can leave it at that for tonight and bring this back again on the next agenda if folks would prefer to do it that way. Unless anybody has any other movement, I will say that both Jason and Mary expressed an interest in no longer being on the events subcommittee. So we may be down to just Michelle on that subcommittee. So we may want to see if we can recruit anyone there, but I don't think we have a need to meet urgently. To be honest, mostly that committee has met like once a year in advance of day in the park, and maybe been emailed once or twice about locations or dates for habitat restoration days, and otherwise hasn't been a group that has been meeting very frequently. I don't know if we might be able to get away with just not having them be a standing subcommittee, and we may need to call them an ad hoc day in the park subcommittee or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
And we can also just table it and think more about it next month if folks would rather.
I've always been a little unclear about how events is different than education and outreach, so I think it's something to
A
consider.
merger is also an opportunity here.
Well, it is different because events take place on specific days and there's a specific thing. They're obviously tied with education and outreach, but education and outreach does the library, the different articles, make sure that all that type of stuff is happening. So they're kind of different mediums.
I get it, but they do seem like,
But we need enough people to cover
if-
both areas.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why they should stay separate.
Mm.
Because it'd be good to have 3 people on each, if possible.
I don't know.
Or
I'm
2
not
people.
sure I would necessarily agree. I feel like both of them have been meeting relatively infrequently.
Yeah, but
And if it's Anthony and Michelle and Mary, then there's 3 people who actually want to participate in that kind of thing. And
I don't really want to do the library display, and I don't.
well,
really
honestly,
wanna,
that subcommittee hasn't done much with that anyway. I have.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just kind of think that. Well, I think that they should stay separate, but that's just me. Because one is the medium that's a physical event that you're planning getting people together to do, and the other is more, shall I say, outward bound media type things. So, so are we done discussing this for tonight? We want to move on? Or are we okay?
Did anybody else have any changes they wanted to make or propose, or any burning subcommittee updates? Let's just put it that way.
I assume there's been no update on the quarry or the Baylands. Okay, thank you. Nothing.
Nope, but start your reading.
Yeah, that, you might want to make sure that Anthony gets copies of the Bayland specific plan to be able to.
They're on the city website. If you have an interest in a hard copy, which I generally discourage for all the reasons we just talked about, but if you do, let me know. We can get you one. But otherwise, they're publicly available on the city website.
Oh, thank you. No need to print it out.
So just to recap, we're not having the invasive species ordinance or the dark skies ordinance subcommittee, ad hoc subcommittees anymore, right? And
Correct.
You, Anthony, you wanted the building decarbonization?
And I'm thinking education and outreach and probably the specific plan, chapters 5 and 7
Okay.
was looking relevant. I'm also, happy to join anything else that, needs a member or,
Okay.
and I'm flexible.
Yeah, and if there are things that, that you're excited about, be sure and speak up, okay. All right.
I will just put out one other thing. Mary also expressed an interest in dropping off the Littman Science Fair, which would just leave Barbara, but that is not one that I think, I don't even know if they ever actually meet as a subcommittee, but really just work together in kind of January timeframe
Yeah,
to
there's
go do the
usually-
judging. So
There's usually some emails back and forth as we sort of coordinate, acknowledgement and times to go see stuff, but we don't really meet per se.
yeah, and we've got a couple of months on that. So folks can think about whether they might want to step up for that, in the next couple of months.
Yeah, and Anthony's a parent, he might actually really,
Yeah, like
and a scientist, so.
My daughter goes there, so
Would you be, should we just go ahead and slot you in right there now?
sure.
Perfect.
Be happy to do that, yeah.
Okay. All right. And then if there's other changes we need, we can do them in the next meeting. And then sharing calendar items. Ooh, October is such an exciting month because we have Day in the Park on the 5th. I hope everybody signed up for a time slot to come and help out and be there.
I have been missed very, very few since I moved to Brisbane, but I'm going to be missing the next one because that's Tristan and his old first dress. So,
Darn.
I'm
Can't you
gonna-
just send them out on stage in tights?
with the person,
I'm not going to say anymore.
Never mind. Okay. All right. We are
I
going to
will say it does look like we have pretty decent coverage. I think we have 2 OSEC members for every time slot throughout the day. And I think Michelle and you said you're going to be around most of the day.
Yeah,
And
'cause-
Jason said he could come an hour earlier if he needed to. So I think we've got pretty good coverage.
Okay.
And then the other thing I wanted to touch on for calendar items was some of our pictures from Coastal Cleanup Day. We had not as big of a turnout as last year, but we had, I think, 36, give or take, folks, if we were able to count accurately. That's most, but not all of them at the top there. There's a similar version of this picture with my face really large trying to take a selfie of everyone. And that picture on the right is legitimately a $100 bill that someone found on Coastal Cleanup Day, which was passed along to give to a family in town that has had some hard times. So, yay, Brisbane.
Yay. This is the first one I've missed except for when my niece got married, in years. And it felt really weird not to be there that morning, but I was overbooked and it was too tempting to go and bend over when I'm not supposed to be doing that. But I talked to a lot of people who went and had a really good time. Really good time. And how was the lunch? Good?
It was good, yeah. I haven't gotten an invoice from the yacht club yet to see how many tickets were redeemed, but I went and I had a good lunch. So yeah, it was nice. I got to see the Coast Guard helicopter as I was walking up, and it was fun.
So, Michelle, speaking of bending over to pick up trash, this was the first year we had the grabbers. And so even though she's not here, maybe she'll listen to it. I would like to tell Mary that I had doubts that I did not say. And when we used the grabbers, they were amazing. I was expecting that it would be dexterity issues and you wouldn't be able to pick up little things, et cetera, and you'd still end up bending over a lot. But other than, you know, having to dig through bushes to get a bottle out or whatever, they worked great. So I'm super impressed, and I need to tell her that in person.
I swear we've had those before.
We had some last year.
There were like 40 of them, though. There were so many this year.
Yeah, and I brought my own last year. And actually, that's how Terry got a $20 bill out of the drain last year.
So we're working on the trash grabber checkout or giveaway program, and we decided to go ahead and buy the bunch of grabbers that we're going to use for that program before this. So we had them all there. So yes, we have had some in the past, but we had more than we needed this year, which was nice. We were able to give one to everyone.
Awesome. Okay. Next.
I don't think there was anything else I really needed to say on the calendar, but I kind of skipped over this. So
And are there
there you
any
go.
other chair and committee matters? Doesn't look like it. Oh, look, Anthony's picture's up there. Yay! Okay, Val, but we're still one person down because Glenn has left us. So if anyone out there in the world is interested in being on the Open Space and Ecology Committee, please submit an application to the city.
Best committee there is.
It is definitely fun. We get to go hiking once a year. We get to pick up garbage once a year. And we get to do all kinds of fun stuff.
Sometimes we tour garbage companies.
Yeah.
We talk a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so when's our next meeting? October 23rd. So any other business? Otherwise? Oh man, I can do anything.
Yeah. We should look at dates for November and December meetings.
Okay.
Because they are on like the day before Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. I forget which. So
normally it's the third or fourth Wednesday.
our meetings are regularly the fourth Wednesday of the month.
Right. And Thanksgiving is, God, is it really the 28th?
It's really the 28th.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so can we have our meeting then on the 20th of November?
The third Wednesday is Park and Rec Commission. The second Wednesday is nothing.
I'm sorry. I think because we're missing 2 meetings. I know everybody hates it, but we should do a when is good with when the room is available, pretty much through all of November and December. Like just the dates that the room is available, and then ask us for,
Yeah.
those nights.
The room and MCTV.
Yes. Whatever works, whatever we need, but I don't think we're gonna be able to solve it at a meeting tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
I
either.
figured. I was kind of hoping I could get, is there any like, yeah, we definitely can't do, I'm going to be traveling, any big things like that that I can start to filter out if
Well,
anybody has any
Yeah,
travel?
but if it's one person, I think you still need to get the whole group.
Yeah, well, I'm
I
just trying
can't
to
do December
narrow.
25th. Okay.
Me neither.
So,
I'm going to be halfway across the country, so.
Yeah. but we cannot miss 2 months of meetings.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting we find one date for the 2 months. So we'll see what we have available for room, MCTV, and staff, and send out a poll.
We did
Okay.
an alternate for complete streets and they had some Tuesdays available.
Thank you.
All right. I move we adjourn the meeting. Everybody in favor? Oh, do I get to hit this now? Thank you.
Yep.